Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto awakened the Sharingan the night he learned the truth. Hidden Uchiha Naruto Chapter 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. The night after graduation day. You are the nine-tailed fox spirit that destroyed the village. Came the voice of his, now former, teacher, Mizuki. Upon hearing those words, the blonde child fell down, his world having shattered around him. The blonde's name is Naruto Uzumaki, Konohagakure's resident prankster and outcast. He had been tricked into stealing a village treasure, lied to by his own teacher, and worst of all, learned a secret that number 12-year-old should have to deal with. Naruto couldn't hear anything after those words. All the other words spoken were little more than echoes in the far reaches of his consciousness. He vaguely heard Iruka-sensei, his kind teacher, denying it, but none of it registered, until he saw a massive shuriken flying down at him. At that moment, the world slowed down and he felt a burning sensation in his eyes. But it didn't matter, he'd already accepted his death. Even if his body could keep up with his new perceptions, he didn't have the will to save his own life, so he closed his eyes. I'm a monster. Those were the only words running through his mind, over and over, until he felt something warm dripping down on his head. Am I dead? He thought, before opening his eyes and seeing something he never expected. He wanted to scream, to run and get help. But only one word managed to come out of his mouth. Why? Iruka was looking down at Naruto, blood dripping from his mouth and tears dripping from his eyes. You'd expect them to be because of the massive weapon lodged in his back, but that wasn't it. These weren't tears of pain, they were tears of sadness and guilt. All he could do was think about his own past, and how he could have better helped Naruto. And then Naruto's single-word question really reached him. Did he just ask me why? Why I saved him? This boy, this poor child, didn't even expect to be saved. He accepted his death, and was shocked when someone saved him. How could any child? Iruka began to think, and then he noticed Naruto's eyes. At first he thought it was a trick of the light. Then he feared it was the Kyuubi's influence, but he felt no evil chakra coming from them. No, there was only one, impossible, conclusion for why Naruto's eyes looked the way they did, red with two tomo in each eye. The Sharingan. Iruka gasped out at last, breaking the silence that had occurred after Naruto's question. What? Naruto asked, caught completely off guard by his teacher's words. He knew what the Sharingan was, who didn't know about it? It was one of the three great dojutsu, belonging to the nearly extinct clan of the kid he claimed was his rival. But why had his teacher mentioned it? Your eyes. It's the Sharin, Iruka started, before being cut off by Mizuki. Lies. Those are the eyes of the demon fox, it's taking over his body. Mizuki shouted, as he jumped down from the tree and removed his shuriken from Iruka's back. Why would you protect him, Iruka? He killed your parents, so many others in the village, and even the Yondaime Hokage. I know you hate the fox as much as everyone else in the village. Mizuki ranted, lifting Iruka and pushing him against a tree, causing Iruka to wince as his injury made contact with the tree. You're right, Iruka shouted, causing Naruto to wince before Iruka continued. I do hate the fox. But Naruto isn't the fox. He's Naruto Uzumaki, and maybe now, with the Sharingan, he could even learn to control the fox for the good of everyone else. He says he's going to be the Hokage, and I believe that he can do it. Iruka's words caused Mizuki to truly look at Naruto's eyes, and he was shocked by what he saw. Iruka was right. It is the Sharingan. How is this possible? Lord Orochimaru mentioned how much he wanted the Sharingan. Maybe I could take his eyes to Lord Orochimaru with the scroll, and he'd be grateful enough to grant me even more power. Mizuki thought, but failed to notice Naruto's eyes go from shocked to determined. Iruka-sensei. Naruto muttered, he really does care about me. He believes in me, I can't let him down. Naruto thought, and unknowingly began to cast a genjutsu when Mizuki looked into his eyes. On Mizuki's end, he saw the pupils in Naruto's eyes turn to fox-like slits, keeping the tomo on either side of the slits. Then he saw Naruto's form grow more and more fox-like, as 9 tails grew one by one from behind him. Eventually, he saw Naruto turn into the full Kyuubi before passing out from the fear. In the real world, Mizuki was muttering, Kyuubi, demon, while passed out on the ground. That was the scene Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage, and his Anbu witnessed when they reached the clearing, Iruka bleeding against a tree, while Naruto was sitting on the ground in front of a passed-out and delirious Mizuki, the scroll still in Naruto's arms. Hiruzen approached Naruto, putting a hand on his shoulder while he took the scroll back, and motioned his Anbu to heal Iruka before asking the question on all of their minds. What happened here, Naruto? He already knew about Mizuki's betrayal, and how Naruto was tricked, so he didn't expect any surprises. However, when Naruto looked at him, he had to double-take. Your eyes. Naruto, finally letting the shock wear off, started trying to act like his normal self. Hey old man, why does everyone keep saying weird things about my eyes? Naruto asked. He could feel that something was different, and he could see a weird aura in people, but he hadn't actually seen his eyes since they changed. Mizuki-sen, he started, before catching himself at the sensei part. Mizuki and Iruka-sensei both mentioned the Sharingan, but that's impossible, right? Don't only Uchiha have Sharingan? Unless I'm so awesome that I awakened it completely on my own. Naruto rambled, not wanting to bring up anything about the fox. Hiruzen, finally snapping out of his shock, ran through a few hand signs and pulled water from the surrounding plants, creating a floating puddle for Naruto to look at his reflection in. Here, Naruto, look at your eyes in this. Whoa, Naruto gasped, staring at his eyes in his reflection. I really do have the Sharingan. Does this make me an Uchiha? Am I related to Sasuke? Do I actually have some family left? Well, that remains to be seen. Now, how about we take this scroll back where it belongs, and get Iruka some help? You've had a very long night, you need some rest too. Hiruzen told him, and then noticed as Naruto's Sharingan deactivated and tears began to form in his eyes. But I failed again. Mizuki told me I could graduate if I learned a jutsu from the scroll. If he was lying, I can never be a shinobi. Naruto stuttered, the night hitting him all at once. And he told me I'm a monster, I'm the Kyuubi. You learned a jutsu from the scroll. Which one? Hiruzen asked him. He loved the boy like a grandson, but to hear that the dead last of the academy learned a forbidden jutsu in one night. The shadow clone jutsu. Really? You learned the shadow clone jutsu? Hiruzen asked, amazed. Could you show it to me? I guess. Naruto muttered, and made the sign for the jutsu. Shadow clone jutsu. He yelled, and suddenly an exact copy of himself appeared in a cloud of smoke. See, old man, I'm sorry for taking the scroll, though. I just really wanted to. He was cut off when he saw Hiruzen pull out a blue forehead protector, and watched as Hiruzen handed it to him. I think this belongs to you, Naruto. It's the forehead protector of the Yondaime Hokage, the one who, he was cut off by an excited Naruto. The Yondaime Hokage, really, he's the coolest. But, Naruto trailed off, finally remembering what Mizuki told him. But Mizuki told me I'm the Kyuubi. Why would you give his forehead protector to the one who killed him? Hiruzen looked at the boy, and then looked at Mizuki still muttering and knocked out on the ground. Good riddance, he deserves hell for what he did to this poor child, he thought, and looked back at Naruto. Naruto. He started, and realized Naruto was looking everywhere but his face. Naruto, look me in my eyes. He told him, grabbing the boy's attention. You are not the Kyuubi. You are Naruto Uzumaki. The Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze, sacrificed his life to stop the Kyuubi. However, the Kyuubi is just a mass of chakra. If he had killed it, it would have just reformed and attacked once more. The only way to stop it was to seal it within someone. He sealed it within you, Naruto. You are not the Kyuubi, you are its jailer. Those who can't see the difference, like Mizuki here, are idiots. And, with those new eyes of yours, you may even be able to use its power for the good of others. He sealed it in me. Why? Why me? Hiruzen stared at Naruto, considering whether or not to tell him the truth. Because of his Sharingan. We'll have to test his blood anyways, to see which side of the family it's from. He deserves to know the truth. Hiruzen thought, staring at Naruto. Even with the Sharingan, there's no doubt about who his father is. He may have Uchiha blood, but he has the same blonde hair and striking blue eyes as Minato. Well, Naruto, this is a secret, and you would be in danger if it gets out. You have to promise me you won't say anything. Hiruzen told him, staring into his eyes. Yeah, I promise, and I never go back on my word. All right, Naruto. The truth is that the Kyuubi had to be sealed within a child, when their body could still adapt to its power. But Minato couldn't ask just anyone for their child. Not if he wouldn't seal it within his own child. Hiruzen waited for the look of realization on Naruto's face, the reaction to the revelation he was told. Sealed it in. His son. His son. I'm the Yondaime's son, Naruto exclaimed, and took the blue headband from Hiruzen, tying it around his own head. Was he an Uchiha? Naruto asked, reactivating and deactivating his new eyes. Do I have to keep my eyes a secret, too? Hiruzen smiled at Naruto. With his headband on he looked like a spitting image of his parents. Minus the whisker marks and Sharingan, at least. Well, I'm actually not sure which of your parents was the Uchiha. I'm guessing it was Minato, though an Uchiha without dark hair and eyes is nearly unheard of. Your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, who you got your last name from, came from another lost clan. I doubt she was an Uchiha, especially since she wasn't born in this village, but we can talk about her after we get Mizuki to the interrogation department. I won't ask you to keep your Sharingan secret, especially since it could improve your standing in the village. Hiruzen motioned for the remaining Anbu to take Mizuki, and he helped Naruto up. Now, how about you return home? You've had a long night and have team assignments in the morning. Hiruzen told him, and they left the forest. Team assignments. The next day, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were all sitting in the classroom. Everyone else had left, hours ago, with their own Jonin teachers, and theirs had yet to arrive. Naruto stared at Sasuke. After last night, when he awakened his Sharingan, he just wanted to go up and talk to him. However, he was still Naruto Uzumaki. Imagine how hilarious it'll be when he sees my Sharingan. It'll be like an ultimate prank, and with my Sharingan active his reaction will be permanently in my head. He vaguely heard Sakura complaining about their teacher being late, but he didn't care. He was too busy thinking about how hilarious it'll be when he shows Sasuke. At that same moment, Kakashi Hatake was finally making his way towards the classroom. He was 3 hours late, like usual, and was expecting some kind of prank once he made it to the door. He'd heard about his sensei's son, of course, and knew he was known as a prankster. He'd yet to learn about the events of the previous night, probably because a certain old Hokage wanted to watch Kakashi's priceless reaction to his sensei's son's Sharingan through his crystal ball. Kakashi, however, was moderately disappointed when he walked through the door without being pranked. Sakura was yelling at him. Sasuke looked annoyed, but Naruto's reaction was the one he noticed. A foxy, mischievous grin. The same grin he saw whenever he watched over him before one of his pranks while he was in the ANBU. My first impression of all of you is, you're boring. Meet me on the roof. And Kakashi disappeared in a swirl of leaves, leaving 3 stunned students. The roof. Minutes later, up on the roof. Now, I'd like you all to tell us a little about yourselves. Kakashi started, looking at his 3 prospective students. Like what? Sakura asked him. You know, the usual. Your favorite things, what you hate, dreams, ambitions, hobbies. Things like that, he told her, waiting for someone to start. Well, why don't you go first, sensei? Naruto asked, wanting to learn more about his teacher. I read about him. He was trained by my dad. I wonder what he's like. I also heard he has the Sharingan somehow. Maybe his reaction will be priceless too. That's right, you're a complete mystery to us. Sakura told him, still upset over him being hours late. Oh, me. Well, my name is Kakashi Hatake. I have no desire to tell you my likes and dislikes. I don't really know what my dream for the future is, and I have lots of hobbies. All 3 just stared at him blankly. Now it's your turn. Let's start on the right, he said, and motioned to Naruto. Yo, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I love instant ramen, training, and pranking. He smirked at the last part, impatiently waiting for the chance to show Sasuke. I hate the 3 minutes it takes for ramen to cook, he continued, and then glanced at Sasuke. Didn't his brother kill his clan? I could have had more family, he thought, and his eyes flashed red for less than a second, catching Kakashi's attention before returning to their usual blue. And I hate anyone who would kill my family. What was that? That flash of red. Was it the Kyuubi? But I couldn't feel any evil chakra coming from him, Kakashi thought, narrowing his visible eye at Naruto. Sakura ignored him, but Sasuke narrowed his eyes with Kakashi, but for a different reason. He hadn't been looking, but he'd heard Naruto and the drop in his voice. He sounded like me. I thought he was always an orphan. What family does he have? Something's different about him, Sasuke thought, before Naruto returned to his usual happy self. And my dream is to become the greatest Hokage. I want to have the people of this village respect me, and I want to bring honor to my family. He finished. I hope the other 2 don't look into the part about my family too much. And I'm sure Kakashi already knows, so it should be fine, right? If not, I'll just say I was talking about the Uchiha after I show them my Sharingan. Does he know about his father? Did Lord Third tell him? If he's talking about fam, Kakashi began to think, but was interrupted. Family. You're an orphan. You don't even have friends. My parents always told me to stay away from. Sakura began, but she was interrupted by the last person any of them expected, Sasuke. Shut up, Sakura, Sasuke yelled, surprising her. Yes, Naruto is an orphan, but so am I. He's annoying as hell, sure, but why does everyone treat him like a monster and treat me like a prince? Neither of us asked for this. He yelled at her, and then an uncomfortable silence spread across the rooftop. Sakura just sat there, shocked by the emotion in his voice. Shocked that he'd stick up for the dead last of their class. And, most of all, shocked at how much she angered him. He's right, she thought, and looked over at Naruto. He looks surprised, but not at me. He looks like he's shocked that anyone would stick up for him. And I've just been yelling at him for years. Because I thought it's what Sasuke would like. They just sat there, until the silence was finally broken by Naruto. Hey, Sasuke. Thank you for sticking up for me, but it's alright. I'm used to it, I'll just have to prove her and everyone else wrong. When I'm Hokage, they'll just have to eat their words. The last part was said with his usual confidence, but none of them missed the sadness in his voice at the start. What kind of life have you lived, Naruto? Kakashi thought to himself, even though he could easily guess. Alright, now how about we calm down? Let's go to the next person, he told them, and motioned for Sasuke to go. Sasuke sat there, and recollected himself before he introduced himself. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. There are lots of things I dislike, and I don't particularly like anything. I don't have a dream, I have a goal, an ambition. I will resurrect my clan and kill a certain man. Sasuke's ambition wasn't as bright as Naruto's, but Kakashi could hear the similarities. They both held the same confidence, and the same loneliness. It went unnoticed by Sakura, who was still shocked over Sasuke yelling at her. Alright, you next, girl, Kakashi said, and motioned towards Sakura. Sakura sat there for a moment, before finally finding words to say. My name is Sakura Haruno. I like flowers and dislike. What Sasuke said was really getting to her, and she couldn't think of much else at the moment. I dislike my own ignorance. I think my dream for the future is to. I want to get to know people better, without basing my opinions off of the opinions of others. She finished, shocking the boys. It seems like what Sasuke said really got to her. Maybe this team will actually pass my teamwork test, Kakashi thought, and then stood up. Alright, then, well, I have to inform you all that you're not exactly genin yet. There's still one more test you have to pass. Meet me tomorrow at Training Field 7, at 10 o'clock. There, I'll decide whether you're really worth those headbands you were given. Oh, and don't eat breakfast. With that, Kakashi disappeared in another swirl of leaves, leaving the three alone on the roof. Well, he was cool. Thanks again, Sasuke. Do you two want to go get our first dinner as a team? Naruto asked the two other prospective genin. Maybe another day, Naruto. Sasuke told him, and left before anyone could say anything. Why did I stick up for him? I just feel like there's some connection there. And what did he mean by bringing honor to his family? He almost sounded like me, Sasuke thought, as he left the academy roof and walked out of the building. Back on the roof, Sakura was sitting silently and Naruto was just watching her, confused. Until, finally, she broke the silence that settled after Sasuke left. Naruto, I'm sorry, I didn't realize how rude I was actually being. And I'm sorry, but I can't get dinner tonight. Maybe all three of us can get food if we pass Kakashi's test tomorrow. Sakura told him, it's alright. Like I said, I'm used to it. And we'll definitely pass tomorrow, believe it. With that, Naruto and Sakura both left the roof and the building, Sakura heading home while Naruto headed to the Hokage building. The third Hokage asked to see him after team assignments, so they could test his blood and see how he's related to the Uchiha, and told him they could talk about his parents. Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno were all sitting on the ground, while an awkward silence hung over them. They had been waiting for 2 hours now, and their teacher, Kakashi Hatake, was late again. They had hoped yesterday was a one-time thing, but apparently they were wrong. What made it worse was the note they left off on the day before. It wasn't inherently bad, but now they weren't sure what to think about each other. Sakura still felt bad for what she said to Naruto, no matter how many times he told her it was alright. She also didn't know what to say to Sasuke. Even if it wasn't directed at him, what she said had obviously struck a chord with him, and it pissed him off. Sasuke was confused. He felt a connection with Naruto, and it still hadn't gone away. He couldn't pinpoint what it was, but it almost felt like family. He wanted to approach Naruto, but he'd never been the most social to begin with, and he didn't want to while Sakura was right there. Naruto, on the other hand, was just sitting there in suspense. Today would be the day. Today he would show Sasuke and Kakashi his Sharingan. He. I can't wait to see the looks on their faces. It'll be priceless. Now, if only Kaka-sensei would actually get here, he thought, and, as if on cue, Kakashi chose that moment to arrive, book in hand. You're late, Sakura shouted, while Sasuke just looked annoyed and Naruto was grinning his mischievous smile. Ma, I got lost on the road of life, Kakashi said in his signature carefree tone. Why's Naruto grinning like that again? He wondered, but decided to ignore it and start the test. Alright, well today we'll find out if you're really going to become Genin, or if you'll be sent back to the academy. He told them, as he pulled out an alarm clock and 2 bells. You have 3 hours to take these bells from me. Anyone who doesn't get a bell is going to be sent back to the academy. What? Naruto shouted. That means only 2 of us can pass. All 3 of the prospective Genin looked shocked. None of them wanted to go back to the academy. Exactly. Your 3 hours start now. Kakashi put the alarm clock down and started the timer. I suggest you hide, he told them, and disappeared from sight. Sasuke and Sakura quickly ran to the trees, but Naruto just looked around for Kakashi. He giggled, spotting Kakashi standing under a tree reading a book. Naruto walked over to him and stood right in front of him. Not a very bright one, are you? Kakashi asked. Damn, I expected more from my sensei's son and our resident prankster. He can sneak around and paint the Hokage's stone faces, but can't sneak enough to take a bell. Naruto raised his hands to a familiar sign, and shouted, Shadow Clone Jutsu. At that moment, a dozen Narutos popped up around him. Charge, he commanded his clones, even if he didn't actually need to. Shadow clones, not exactly normal for a new Genin. Kakashi casually said, taking down clone after clone without even looking up from his book. Oh, I'm just full of surprises. You'll have to put down the book if you want to keep those bells. Naruto shouted, and took advantage of the smoke from his dispelled clones to activate his Sharingan. His blue eyes turned blood red, and 2 tomo formed in each eye. Kakashi still hadn't looked up from his book, and didn't notice the change until there was a fist inches from his face. What the? Kakashi started, and caught a glimpse of red eyes. He couldn't see the tomo before he used a substitution jutsu and replaced himself with a log. Red eyes. Is it the Kyuubi? He wondered. He wasn't an experienced sensor, but anyone would have been able to feel it if it was the Kyuubi's power. No. It's not that. I'll have to take a closer look next time. Naruto took Kakashi's short moment of distraction to close the distance created between them, Sharingan blazing. Man, I wish I could see the look on his face through his mask. He giggled, and threw another punch at Kakashi, Sharingan staring directly into Kakashi's uncovered eye. As Kakashi blocked his punch, he made sure to look at Naruto's eyes, and what he saw surprised him. The Sharingan, he thought, shocked still. He has the Sharingan. How is that possible? Naruto, while his Sharingan saved the look of Kakashi's widened eye, took the chance and punched Kakashi right in the face. It didn't do much damage. He was just a Genin fighting a Jonin, after all, but it gave him a chance. With his perception enhanced, he twisted his body to try and grab a bell from Kakashi. However, the sound of his finger against a bell knocked Kakashi out of his shock and he substituted away, leaving Naruto to crash into a log. "Aw man," he said, deactivating his Sharingan and rubbing his head. Well, if shocking him still didn't work, may as well move on to plan B, he thought out loud, thinking back to where he saw Sasuke and Sakura run off to. Well, Sasuke first, he thought, and ran off to where he remembered Sasuke going. With Sasuke, the hell, he thought, watching Naruto actually land a hit on Kakashi, a Jonin, from his spot in a tree. He actually landed a hit. The dead last landed a hit on a Jonin. What was it that shocked him so much? He thought, and then noticed Naruto running his direction. He saw Naruto create a shadow clone, and watched as the shadow clone boosted Naruto up to the branch next to the one Sasuke was on. Hey Sasuke, I think we need to work together, with Sakura, if we want to get those bells. Naruto told him, while Sasuke just stared at him with a mix of wonder and confusion. If it comes down to which of us will fail, I'll take the fall, you know. You and Sakura can become genin, I'll just catch up next time. Sasuke considered it for a second, then decided why not. Sure, but on one condition. Tell me what the hell you did to surprise Kakashi and land a blow on him. Sasuke demanded as he stared at him. Oh sure, Naruto exclaimed and started smiling with his mischievous grin. Hee, this is gonna be priceless. He thought, and closed his eyes and activated his Sharingan. See, the other day I found out I'm an Uchiha, like you. Sure you are Naruto. Now tell me the truth, or I won't work. Sasuke started, but cut himself off when Naruto opened his eyes, revealing his two-tomo Sharingan. What the hell? He shouted, eyes bulging and mouth agape as he fell off the tree. Naruto, already rewatching it through his Sharingan, busted out laughing until he couldn't stand anymore and fell off the tree with Sasuke. Priceless, he said, ignoring the fact that he just fell from the tree as he rolled around laughing on the ground. Sasuke just sat there, staring at the boy who was, apparently, the only other loyal member of his clan. Kakashi just watched from a distance, still in disbelief, and they all just sat there for a minute. Naruto's laughter filling the forest, until Sakura found Naruto and Sasuke. With Sakura, Sakura was watching, also in disbelief, as Naruto landed a hit on the Jonin. She couldn't believe it. Naruto, the dead last, and he hit Kakashi-sensei. How? She thought, sitting on a branch and watching the exchange. Then she watched as Naruto ran off to where Sasuke was hiding, wondering what he was doing. Nearly 30 seconds later, she heard two bodies crash to the ground, and the sound of laughter filling the air. What's that idiot doing? She wondered, and got down from her tree. She snuck through the forest, trying to avoid Kakashi, unaware that she had nothing to worry about because he was just watching Naruto, wide-eyed and in disbelief. When she came across the two boys, she had to fight the urge to yell and punch Naruto, who was just rolling around and laughing while Sasuke stared at him wide-eyed. What are you two doing? She hissed at them, knocking Sasuke out of his shock and causing Naruto to stop laughing, though there were still tears on his face from all of the laughter. Then she saw them, his eyes, though she didn't know what she was looking at. What's up with your eyes, Naruto? Why are they red? Are you hurt? She knew what the Sharingan was, of course, but she was far enough away that she couldn't see the tomo in them. Naruto and Sasuke barely noticed her after she knocked them out of their states of laughter and shock. Sasuke was just staring at Naruto, his face full of emotions he didn't even realize he had, until, eventually, he shouted, "How do you have Sharingan? Did you say you were an Uchiha?" Naruto stared at him, saving every moment of his hilarious reaction into his Sharingan, fighting off even more laughter. He, I told you I was," he said, finally deactivating his Sharingan, his eyes turning back to their normal, piercing blue. Something happened a few days ago, he started, deciding to explain as much as he could to Sasuke. I activated my Sharingan after finding out something world-shattering, when I failed the Genin exams again. The old man, Lord Third, tested my blood, and apparently my father was an Uchiha and didn't even know. Apparently he was a war orphan, and they never realized he was an Uchiha because he looked nothing like one. We don't think he even knew himself," Naruto explained to Sasuke, and stood up, offering a hand to help Sasuke up. "But you know what this means, right? We're family, you know." Sasuke just looked up at Naruto's extended hand, everything Naruto said running through his mind. I still have family, outside of that man. I'm not alone." Sasuke wondered, and eventually decided to grab Naruto's hand. "Right. Family," he managed out, and Naruto pulled him to his feet. Sakura just stood there, watching the exchange with her mouth agape. "Naruto's an Uchiha," she wondered out loud, drawing Naruto and Sasuke's attention. "Oh, hey Sakura, I forgot you were there, but yeah, I'm thinking about asking the old man to change my name to Uchiha, that way Sasuke doesn't have to be alone." "Or would Uzumaki Uchiha be better?" Naruto asked, and then remembered what they were there for. "Oh, yeah, we need to finish this test. If we work together, we might be able to get the bells," he told her. Sasuke just stared at him, before agreeing. "Yeah, Naruto's right. We need to get the bells, and that'll only work if we work together," he told Sakura, snapping her out of her shock. "But there are only 2 bells," she exclaimed. Naruto just sighed in response. "Don't worry, Sakura. If we get both of the bells, I'll let you 2 have them. I'm sure I could find some other way to become a genin, if I really need to," he told her. "But I'm willing to bet that, if we work together well enough, he'll have to accept us, you know." The other 2 nodded their agreement, and the 3 of them started to work on a plan together. 10 minutes later, Kakashi was leaning against a tree in the middle of the clearing, pretending to read a book while watching the 3 of them plan, thinking over everything he'd learned. So, Sensei was an Uchiha. Never heard of an Uchiha with blonde hair and blue eyes, but Minato Sensei was always one of a kind. To think that his son would awaken the Sharingan, he thought, and noticed that they'd finally began to move. He watched them disappear into the trees, and then the 3 of them charged at him. 10 minutes of planning, and this was the best you could come up with?" he asked, faking disappointment. "This is obviously a feint of some kind, but how?" he wondered, then noticed something off about the 3 of them. They all had Sharingan, even Sakura. "Oh, I see. They're trying to throw me off by sending 3 of Naruto's shadow clones, all with activated Sharingan," he thought, and quickly dispatched the clone of Naruto and the one transformed into Sasuke. However, at the last second, the one transformed into Sakura dodged and made another swipe at the bell. He backhanded the fake Sakura, stopping them from getting a bell, and expecting her to dispel, and was surprised when she didn't. While this was going on, the real Sasuke and Sakura were hidden in the trees, waiting for a signal. When they saw Sakura get backhanded, they charged. Transforming into 2 Narutos, they charged at Kakashi. More clones, Kakashi thought, before looking closer. No. The Sakura I just hit must be Naruto. Which means those 2 are the real Sasuke and Sakura. But which is? His thoughts were cut off when one of them started to form hand signs. Wait, I recognize. All 3 genin deactivated their transformations as Sasuke finished his hand signs. Naruto, watching Sasuke with his Sharingan, began to make the same hand signs. Once Naruto finished making the hand signs, he and Sasuke shouted, "Fire release!" Great Fireball Jutsu, and released 2 balls of fire at both sides of Kakashi. Sasuke's was twice as large as Naruto's, since he'd trained to master the jutsu, but either one of those fireballs could have done damage to Kakashi, assuming they hit. Impressive, Kakashi thought, dodging the dual fireballs. They took advantage of the Sharingan's ability to copy techniques, but why would Sakura rush with them? He wondered, but his question was answered when he realized where he dodged to, and he had to avoid Sakura taking the bells. So, they figured I'd forget about Sakura when dodging their fireballs. Not bad. At that moment, when they were preparing to attack again, the timer ran out. Damn it, we were so close. Was heard around the training field, and silence followed those words from Naruto. Ma, Naruto. There's no such thing as, so close, in the field. You either succeed, or you fail. Kakashi told them, watching the faces of the three genin fall before he continued. And you, my cute little genin, succeeded. He exclaimed, his voice slightly raised but still carrying that carefree tone. What? Naruto and Sakura shouted together, while Sasuke just looked on with barely masked surprise. That's right, my cute little genin. Now, I've got to go report this to Lord Third. Meet me here, tomorrow at 11, for our first mission as Team 7. Kakashi told them, and disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Earlier, in the Hokage's office, Hiruzen Sarutobi, the god of shinobi, was crying from tears in his desk chair. He could be seen watching his crystal ball, and it showed a shocked Kakashi Hatake. Oh, how I wish I could save images in my crystal ball. He exclaimed, watching Naruto show his Sharingan to Kakashi, and then to Sasuke. So this is why he asked me not to tell anyone about his Sharingan. He managed out, still laughing at the scene. He then looked to the picture of the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze, hung on his wall. Oh, Minato, your boy is hilarious. He said to the picture, and began to wipe off the tears from his laughter. Hokage's office, now, Hiruzen stood before the Jonin he assigned teams to, currently getting a report from his son, Asuma Sarutobi. Team 10, comprised of Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka, and Choji Akamichi has passed. Asuma reported to his father, though it wasn't a surprise. This generation's Ino Shika Cho trio, like every year, already knew each other and knew how to work together, even if it was reluctantly on Ino's part. Good, now, unless we have any last minute, Hiruzen started, but was interrupted by a knock on the door. Enter. In came Kakashi Hatake, the eternally late Jonin who'd never passed a team. Ah, Kakashi, do you have a report on your team? Hiruzen asked, showing a knowing smile. Kakashi walked up to the desk, stood at attention, and reported. Team 7, comprised of Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and, he started, and shot Hiruzen a questioning glance, to which he was given a nod of approval. Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha has passed. He finished. His report was met with stunned silence, before murmuring broke out among the Jonin present. Did he say passed? Uzumaki Uchiha? Did he just call the Naruto and Uchiha? Silence. Hiruzen called out. His voice wasn't raised, but it held a tone of authority. Now, Kakashi, is there anything else you have to report? Yes, Lord Third. It appears that Naruto has awakened the Sharingan, with 2 tomo in each eye. He successfully convinced both Sakura and Sasuke to work with him, as well. Kakashi finished, and stepped back to the other Jonin. Another stunned silence followed this, with everyone eyeing Kakashi. All right, then, if that is all, Teams 7, 8, and 10 have passed and will be made official genin of the village. You are all dismissed, Hiruzen told them, and the Jonin began to file out of the room, until it was just Kakashi and Hiruzen. You knew, didn't you, Lord Third? It was less of a question and more of a statement. You knew about his Sharingan. Hiruzen let out a laugh, before nodding. Yes, I knew. He also knows about his parents, and that you were his father's student. There was an incident a few days ago, involving a former instructor at the academy who tricked him and then told him about the Kyuubi. The shock was, apparently, enough to awaken the Sharingan. I realized I'd have to test his blood, along with his parents, to confirm the relation to the Uchiha. As it turns out, Minato was one as well. He asked me to keep it a secret, as he obviously wanted to see your reactions for himself. He laughed out the last part, and Kakashi just shook his head. And now he can rewatch it whenever he wants, thanks to his Sharingan. Kakashi muttered, before waving and walking out of the room. Well, I'm sure there are more people who want to ask me about this, by Lord Third, Kakashi said, and walked out of the room. Immediately, he was met by Kurenai Yuhi and Asuma Sarutobi, both looking at him with shocked expressions. Kakashi just continued walking, and waved for them to follow him. Ma, ask away. Naruto's really an Uchiha, and he has the Sharingan. Asuma asked, wide-eyed. Yeah, ask your father, he's the one who confirmed it. Didn't even tell me. It shocked me so much when I saw it that he landed a hit on me and nearly took one of the bells. He also knows how to make shadow clones, can you believe it? He's got some massive chakra, on top of his Sharingan. The three Jonin continued talking, eventually moving on from just Naruto to talking about each of their students. However, Naruto's name was still the one that popped up the most in the conversation. Ichiraku Ramen. The three new genin, Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura, were all sitting and eating ramen as celebration for passing the test. Sasuke was originally reluctant, but he wanted to talk with Naruto as soon as possible, and was just waiting for Sakura to leave. Sasuke was on his second bowl, while Sakura was on her first and Naruto was on his fifth. Geez, Naruto, how do you eat that much? Sakura asked, staring at her one bowl and then at his five. It's ramen, the food of the gods. Kami's gift to mankind, Naruto exclaimed, as he inhaled his fifth bowl. Sasuke just stared at him, still in disbelief that Naruto's an Uchiha. I can't believe we're related. Sasuke muttered, causing Tsuki and Ayame to stop what they were doing and stare in disbelief. Related? Tsuki asked, while Ayame just stared. Oh, yeah, I can't believe I forgot to tell you guys. I'm an Uchiha, he exclaimed, and activated his Sharingan as a show of proof. Tsuki just dropped the bowl of ramen he was bringing to Naruto, but Naruto was able to safely catch it with the enhanced perception of the Sharingan. Oh, yeah, I can save ramen with these eyes. Sasuke just rolled his eyes at that, half amused and half annoyed. He muttered, to think the legendary dojutsu of my clan would be used to save ramen. While Naruto finished his sixth bowl, and Sasuke finished his second bowl, Sakura finally finished her first bowl and got up. Well, I've got to go home and tell my parents I passed. She told them, leaving money for her bowl and began to walk away. I'll see you two Uchiha tomorrow, for our first mission. As Sakura walked away, Naruto pulled out his froggy wallet and began to pull out money, but was stopped by Sasuke. He shot a confused glance at Sasuke, who just responded with, "Let me pay." Hey, I couldn't ask you to do that. I ate most the food, you know. Naruto told him, still confused. We're family now, right? Plus, I have the entire fortune of the Uchiha. Since you're an Uchiha too, you may as well use it. Sasuke pulled out his own wallet, and put the food for their meal on the table. Let's go, I want to talk to you, he said, and walked out of the booth. Oh, well, thanks for the food. Naruto hastily bowed, and followed Sasuke out of the booth. Sasuke began to walk away, and motioned for Naruto to follow him. So, where are we going? He asked as they walked. The Uchiha compound, Sasuke stated. Why? Isn't that place full of bad memories? It is, but it's important to my clan. After a few minutes, they reached the gate to the compound. Naruto was silent, For once. He'd known about the Uchiha massacre before, but he researched it even more after finding out he was one. He read about how Itachi Uchiha, prodigy of the clan and Sasuke's older brother, slaughtered everyone, except for Sasuke. Sasuke led Naruto to his old home, the one he hadn't set foot in since that night. He was grateful for Naruto's silence. As much as he wanted to, needed to, talk about it, he needed it to be on his terms. He needed to start the conversation. Eventually, they reached it, but he didn't open the door. He couldn't open the door. Naruto. Sasuke started, grabbing Naruto's attention. This is where I found them. Where I found my parents, with that man standing over them, sword drawn. Naruto just stared at him, unsure what to say, and unsure why he was telling him this. He was speechless, which allowed Sasuke to continue. It's been hard. I thought I was the last of my clan, aside from him. I felt alone. I always felt some kind of connection to you, or I have since that night, but I always thought it was because you were alone, like I was. Sasuke continued, fighting tears, as he remembered the night it all happened. To find out that I'm really not the last. Sasuke trailed off, still fighting back tears. Naruto just walked up to him, and put his hand on his shoulder. Sasuke, I felt a connection to you, too. But I never really. I didn't understand what you were going through. I was always alone. I didn't know what it felt like to lose someone. You've been dealing with this sadness, this anger, all alone for all these years. All because of your own brother. Naruto nearly spat out the last words, and his Sharingan activated because of the emotions he was feeling. If you don't want to be here, he started, letting his Sharingan calm down and deactivate, we can leave. We could talk at my apartment, or at... No. Sasuke cut him off, wiping the escaped tears from his eyes. I need to face this. I just never wanted to do it alone. Can you just be here while I face this, Naruto? Naruto nodded, and Sasuke went to slide open the doors to the room he saw Itachi in. It had been cleaned after the massacre, but it was filled with dust. No one had been here in years. When he looked where he saw Itachi, and the bodies of his parents, he could almost see the scene. The scene that had been burned into his memory, and then replayed over and over in his brother's Tsukuyomi. That was when he remembered the feeling. The burning sensation in his eyes, the one he'd forgotten when he tried to forget about that night. That's when it hit him again, when the burning sensation returned. Why do my eyes feel like this? Sasuke wondered out loud, as he shut his eyes and grabbed them. After a few seconds, he felt the burning sensation recede, and he opened his eyes. Everything looked clearer than ever before. What's wrong, Sasuke? Naruto asked, concern evident in his voice. Then, when Sasuke turned around, he saw it. Blood-red eyes, with 2 tomo each. You awakened your Sharingan, you know. Naruto exclaimed, and activated his own. It's 2 tomo, just like mine. When Sasuke heard that, he ran to where he remembered his bathroom being, and looked at his reflection in the mirror. 2 Sharingan stared back at him, and 4 stared back when Naruto showed up behind him. Despite where he was, Sasuke felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. He felt joy. He looked at Naruto, Sharingan staring at Sharingan, and smiled a genuine smile. Not as bright as Naruto's, but a smile nonetheless. Let's get out of here, Naruto. He said, and his smile changed to a smirk. We've got to get you some clothes worthy of an Uchiha. With that, Naruto's smile dropped and he stared down at his orange jumpsuit. But I love orange. Too bad. No clan member of mine is going to wear a bright orange jumpsuit, and we need to get you an Uchiwa fan symbol on your back. With that, he grabbed Naruto's collar and pulled him to the nearest tailor. As much as Naruto wanted to protest, he didn't. He was just happy to have a family, even if it meant wearing dark clothes with a high collar. Team 7, consisting of Naruto Uzumaki Uchiha, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno were arriving at Training Ground 7, where their Jonin-sensei told them to meet for their first mission. "He's not here yet, is he?" Naruto asked, though he knew the answer. "No, and he probably won't be here for another few hours," Sakura groaned, and then she noticed Naruto's change in clothes. He switched out the bright orange jumpsuit for a black pair of pants, with bandages holding his kunai holster, and bandages wrapped around the bottom of his legs. He wore a dark blue shirt with it, tucked into his belt, and a black jacket with orange linings over the dark blue shirt. Basically just Kid Obito's outfit, but the jacket and pants are black instead of blue, and he's not wearing goggles. "Nice outfit. Get tired of the blinding orange jumpsuit?" she asked him, and noticed Sasuke smirk. Sasuke turned to Naruto, still smirking, and told him, "Told you it was better, idiot." "Hey, I liked the orange jumpsuit. It was nice and easy." Naruto snapped back. "Sasuke made me get rid of it. He told me no Uchiha would be caught dead wearing that. He took me to a tailor. At first he tried to give me some of his emo clothes," Naruto started, and stuck his tongue out at Sasuke. "Eventually, we found this. I decided it was a good compromise between what he thought an Uchiha should wear, and what I wanted to wear. Though," he turned around, and pointed at an Uchiwa on his back, "I like wearing the symbol of my clan, and it's so hilarious whenever I see someone on the street do a double take." He laughed. "Well, it's definitely an improvement," Sasuke sighed. "If we dyed your hair then people might believe you were an Uchiha, without you having to activate your Sharingan." Naruto shrugged. "It's funny to see their reaction every time I do activate it." "Don't act like you haven't saved a few of their reactions with your new Sharingan." Sasuke just made a barely audible HN sound as a response. "Wait, Sasuke, you activated your Sharingan?" Sakura asked, eyes wide. "Yeah, he activated it last night," Naruto told her, and stopped her before she could speak again. "Don't ask how. Sharingan usually don't activate from positive emotions, and I don't think he wants to think about it anymore." "Oh," Sakura trailed off. "Well, now half our team has Sharingan, maybe I'm next," she joked, trying to lighten the mood. "Actually, Kaka-sensei has one too, so it's more like 2.5 out of 4. Naruto told her, getting looks of shock from both of his teammates. "Kakashi has a Sharingan?" Sasuke asked, eyes wide. Naruto just stared at him for a few seconds, surprised that he didn't know. "Yeah, you really didn't know. I think it's why he covers his eye all the time. It's implanted, so he can't deactivate it," he explained, and saw Sasuke's eyes flash red. Hey, calm down. It was back during one of the wars, and I doubt the old man would have put him in charge of the 2 last Uchiha if he thought he'd steal an Uchiha's eye, you know." "Oh," Sasuke said, his eyes deactivating. Sakura just stood there, watching the exchange until it hit her. "I'm the only one on this team without a Sharingan. That's so unfair," she complained, and Naruto just started laughing. "Ah, well, since Kaka-sensei probably isn't going to be here for a few more hours," Naruto said, and turned to Sasuke, "Want to start training our Sharingan?" Sasuke just shook his head, surprising both Naruto and Sakura. "You may be an Uchiha and have a Sharingan, but your taijutsu is still awful. I don't know what they were teaching you, but not even the Sharingan can make up for that mess. I'm gonna take this time to teach you the interceptor style." He motioned for Naruto to follow him to the field. "Since we don't have time to teach you from scratch, activate your Sharingan and watch me." Awful. It was enough to land a hit on Kaka-sensei, you know. Naruto groaned, but followed him anyways, activating his Sharingan. "Yeah, Because you surprised him. Sasuke slipped into the interceptor style, and Naruto followed along with his Sharingan. 2 hours later, Naruto and Sasuke were panting on the field. Naruto laid out on his back while Sasuke was just barely keeping himself up by putting his hands on his knees. Sakura was watching them from the side, unsure of how she could train with them. That was the scene that Kakashi Hatake saw, as he finally arrived, 2 hours after he told them to get there. He body flickered in front of Sasuke, who fell on his back and instinctively activated his Sharingan. He awakened his Sharingan, too, he thought, and looked between his two exhausted students. Ma, not very smart to exhaust yourself before a mission, is it? He told them with an eye smile, and then noticed Naruto's clothes. He muttered, "Obito." Just barely loud enough for Sasuke to hear and raise an eyebrow. "We know it won't be anything dangerous, Kaka-sensei. We aren't stupid, you know." Naruto shouted at Kakashi, and Sasuke just made a HN sound. Minutes after Naruto and Sasuke started training. "Wait, maybe we shouldn't do this, Sasuke. What if we're exhausted when he finally shows up, so he makes us stay in the village instead of doing a cool mission, like saving a princess or..." Naruto was cut off by a blow to the stomach, and looked up to see Sasuke. "Are you stupid, Naruto? No one starts off with big missions. We'll probably just be painting fences or something. But we both have Sharingan, Sasuke. It'd be such a waste if they had the two last Uchiha just painting fences." Naruto whined. "And how much more of a waste would it be if they sent out their two last Uchiha and we died on the first mission?" Naruto opened his mouth to prepare to respond, but stopped himself because he couldn't think of anything to say. "I guess you're right," Naruto conceded, and they went back to training. Back in the present, Sasuke stared at his sensei, putting pieces together in his head. Naruto said he has the Sharingan. And he called Naruto Obito when he saw his new Uchiha outfit. He thought, and decided to just be upfront and ask. "Kakashi." "Yeah, Sasuke. Can you show me and Naruto your Sharingan? And can you tell us how you got it? I'm sure you can understand our curiosity," Sasuke asked, using as much politeness as he could manage. Kakashi just stood there for a bit, and Naruto walked over, starting to get his breath back, and sat down by Sasuke. Sakura was watching from the side of the training ground. She was curious, but knew it was more important to Naruto and Sasuke than it was for her. Kakashi looked down at the two Uchiha. Naruto, the spitting image of his dead sensei, wearing the clothes of his dead comrade. Sasuke, who would look so much like his elder brother, Kakashi's failed student, if he had the same stress lines by his eyes. "I guess," Kakashi started, his mask of carelessness gone for the moment. He pulled up his forehead protector, revealing his singular, 3-tomo Sharingan. "I got it on my first mission after I became a Jonin, when I was around your age." This got a look of surprise from the genin, but they stayed quiet. During the war, my team was tasked with infiltrating enemy lines. We ran into some issues along the way, and my teammate, Rin Nohara, was captured. My other teammate, Obito Uchiha, wanted to go and rescue her, but I told him that we needed to complete the mission. We went our separate ways, but the guilt eventually got to me, so I went to help Obito. We were attacked, and he awakened his Sharingan. We managed to save Rin, but the enemy collapsed a cave on top of us. Obito was crushed by a falling boulder, half his body was destroyed. His final gift to me was this. He pointed at his eye, and recovered it with his forehead protector. He gave me his Sharingan because I'd lost my eye earlier in the fight. Kakashi explained, and turned to look at Naruto. "Those clothes. They look almost exactly like his, but the black areas were blue. Obito is why I put so much emphasis on teamwork during the test." Obito once told me, those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their friends are worse than scum. He finished, and waited for a reaction. Sasuke held a stoic expression, while Naruto looked at Kakashi with compassion in his eyes. The silence held, until it was broken by, to everyone's surprise, Sasuke. Kakashi. Sensei. I'm sorry. His voice was shaky, and he was looking down. Kakashi looked at him, confused. Sorry for what, Sasuke? Sasuke looked back up at Kakashi, and then his gaze shifted to Naruto, and back to Kakashi. After that man killed my clan. He started, before deciding to correct himself. After Itachi killed my clan, I thought I was alone in the darkness. His Sharingan activated when he mentioned Itachi, and he closed his eyes. I didn't think that anyone else could understand. He was cut off when he felt a hand on his shoulder, and looked up to see Kakashi, a knowing look in his one visible eye. It's all right, Sasuke. I know what it's like to feel alone. Just rely on your comrades, and I hope you'll learn your lesson without a comrade dying to get the point through. Kakashi told Sasuke, and then stood up. All right, team, let's head to the Hokage's office for our first mission. Later, somewhere in the village. Sasuke, I'm at point B. Sakura, I'm at point C. Naruto, I'm at point A, believe it. Okay. Squad 7, the target has moved. With that, Naruto and Sasuke activated their Sharingan, and prepared to capture their target. Team Sharingan is on the move. Naruto shouted, earning a facepalm from Kakashi. But I don't have a Sharingan, Naruto. Sakura shouted back at him. Sasuke grunted. Let's just get this damned cat. Naruto and Sasuke jumped at the cat from either side, yet it somehow managed to dodge them, despite their legendary dojutsu. Luckily, when it bolted from them, it ran right into Sakura. Woohoo! Naruto cheered, while Sasuke walked over to the cat, Sharingan still blazing. He had scratches down his arm, thanks to the cat they had been chasing for around 10 minutes. Sakura. Sasuke started, drawing her attention. Point the cat's eyes at me. I'm putting it in a genjutsu for the hell. Sasuke. What the hell? Sakura started, but was cut off when she saw Naruto's Sharingan blazing too. No, I think I actually agree with Sas. Naruto and Sasuke were both cut off when Kakashi showed up and took the cat, Tora, from Sakura. Ma, I don't think the daimyo would be very happy if you tortured his wife's cat, even if you are the last to Uchiha. Come on Kaka-sensei, I was just gonna scare him with a scary dog or something. He'd be fiend, Naruto argued, and they headed back to turn in the cat and get the money for their mission. Mission Assignment Desk. Team 10, consisting of Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Choji Akamichi, were walking into the room with their Jonin-sensei, Asuma Sarutobi, trailing behind. Already inside the room was Team 8, consisting of Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, and Kiba's dog, Akamaru. Their Jonin-sensei, Kurenai Yuhi, immediately walked up to Asuma once he entered the room. Oh, hey guys, Kiba greeted as Team 10 entered the room. Now if Team 7 shows up, our whole graduating class will be here. Ooh, I hope Sasuke. Ino started, but everyone's attention was drawn to the entrance. Oh, come on Kaka-sensei. Just a little genjutsu, I promise he'll be fine. Naruto argued, still determined to torture the cat. Kakashi just kept walking, and handed the cat off to Iruka. Naruto, I said no. Kakashi told him, and noticed all eyes in the room on them. Genjutsu, Shikamaru echoed, narrowing his eyes at Naruto. Weren't you absolutely useless in genjutsu at the academy? And what's up with your change in? He started, but was cut off by a squealing sound coming from his teammate. Sasuke, Ino shouted, and tried to jump on Sasuke, who just dodged and let her hit the floor. Troublesome, Shikamaru mumbled, before continuing his thoughts. Naruto, what's up with your change in outfit? Did someone finally burn that hideous orange jumpsuit? He asked, and suddenly everyone was focusing on his new clothes. I think it looks nice. Hinata stuttered, and became red as a tomato when Naruto grinned at her. Thanks, Hinata. Sasuke made me. Naruto began to explain, but was interrupted by Ino getting off the floor behind them and noticing the Uchiwa symbol on his back. The hell? Why do you have Sasuke's symbol on your back? Ino screeched, staring at the back of his new outfit. Naruto just turned his head, activating his Sharingan once it was out of view of the others so he could save the look of shock on her face, stunning her into silence. Ino just stared at him, mouth agape and eyes wide. Naruto deactivated his Sharingan, and turned to face the others. Like I was saying, Sasuke made me get a new outfit when he found out I'm an Uchiha like him. He told them, just getting looks of disbelief from everyone, while Sasuke smirked from the side. PFFT, as if the dead last could be an Uchiha. Kiba shouted, and Naruto just gave his trademark mischievous grin, while Sasuke continued smirking at the situation. Naruto turned around and pointed his thumbs at the symbol on his back. Shikamaru, noticing Sasuke's smirk and silence, narrowed his eyes even more. Wouldn't Sasuke be yelling at him if he was lying? Could Naruto actually be an Uchiha? Shikamaru thought, then looked to Ino. Just the Uchiwa wouldn't be enough to stun her into silence. What did he show her when he turned around? This was the moment that Naruto decided to show them his Sharingan. I'm an Uchiha, believe it. He shouted, and activated his Sharingan. The others stared at him, completely caught off guard, as his eyes turned red and two tomo spun into existence around his pupils. Sasuke decided to activate his Sharingan at the same time, and both the Uchiha saved their reactions with their Sharingan. Even Asuma and Kurenai, who Kakashi had already told, were shocked to see the blonde with Sharingan, and Kakashi quickly removed his headband to save their reactions, before replacing his headband to save chakra. Hinata, Kiba, and Choji stared at his Sharingan, shock evident on their faces. Shikamaru had begun to figure it out, but was still shocked to have his theory confirmed. Shino's shock was covered by his glasses and high collar, but even he had an air of shock surrounding him. Those who knew, Sakura, Iruka, Hiruzen, Kakashi, and Sasuke, just smirked at the reaction, while Naruto busted out laughing. When Naruto's laughter finally faded, silence filled the room, until Akamaru barked and knocked them out of their silence. You have the Sharingan, Kiba shouted, followed by Shikamaru muttering something that sounded like, troublesome. Hinata stared at Naruto, deactivated Byakugan staring into Sharingan, her blush from earlier being replaced by the shock of the situation. Are we absolutely sure he isn't just pranking us with contacts? Kiba asked. Because we all know how much he loves to prank people. Shikamaru shook his head. We saw him activate it. I don't know about you, but I've never seen a pair of contacts that could activate and deactivate. Kiba just kept staring at Naruto. Maybe it's a genjutsu. Maybe he learned them somehow. Or maybe he convinced Sasuke too. Shikamaru just shook his head again. Do you really think Sasuke would go along with something like this? If you really want confirmation, just ask Hinata to confirm it with her Byakugan. Shikamaru told him, and Kiba turned to face Hinata with a questioning look. Hinata, please, he asked, and Akamaru barked his agreement. Naruto just kept watching the scene, Sharingan memorizing the reactions, with a goofy grin on his face. Hinata blushed with the attention focused on her, and raised her hands, and went through the necessary hand seals for the Byakugan. Right, Byakugan. Her pupils became defined, and the veins around her eyes bulged out. With the Byakugan, She could see nearly 360 around her and could see the chakra, and chakra points, in people's bodies. When she focused on Naruto, she could see the chakra focused in his eyes, and the chakra in Sasuke's eye. It's real. Sasuke has it too. She stuttered, and then noticed the chakra around Kakashi's covered eye. And so does. Kakashi-sensei. Really? Kiba shouted. Does everyone on their team have the Sharingan? That's so unfair. Ma, I only have one. Kakashi told Kiba, and quickly raised his headband to show his Sharingan, before lowering it again. And it's not as good as theirs will be. Yeah, and I don't have a Sharingan at all. Sakura told them, a hint of annoyance in her voice. It's all right, Sakura, you're smarter than I am, so it balances out. Naruto grinned at her, attempting to reassure her. Anyways, we want another mission, old man. He shouted, turning to Hiruzen. Naruto ooh, Sakura shouted, and ran to punch him in the head, but he dodged her because his Sharingan was still activated. Be respectful, he's the Hokage. There's the usual Sakura. Naruto grinned. You haven't even tried to hit me since I told you guys about my Sharingan. I thought something was wrong. He said, still grinning while scratching the back of his head. Kurenai took that moment to clear her throat, catching the attention of the genin. Well, my team needs to go. Come on, teammate. I'm sure you'll all see each other again soon. Bye Kiba, bye Shino, bye Hinata. Naruto told the leaving team, earning a wave from Shino, a blush from Hinata, and a grin from Kiba. Bye Naruto. Hinata stuttered out. Bye Naruto. Don't think that you're better than me just because of your fancy new eyes. Kiba shouted, and Team 8 left the room. After Team 8 left, Shikamaru walked up to Naruto, and looked at his Sharingan. Doesn't that use a bunch of chakra? Should you really be keeping it on for no reason? He asked Naruto, and looked over to Sasuke, who had deactivated his Sharingan. Naruto just looked at him confused, and then over at Sasuke. Does it? He asked, looking at Sasuke. I haven't noticed any drain on my chakra when I've been using it. I could keep it on all the time if I wanted to, I just don't feel like memorizing every detail of my day. Sasuke shrugged in response, before reactivating his own Sharingan. Not really. I only feel a minor amount of chakra being used when I use my Sharingan. From what I can tell, I have pretty above average chakra reserves, at least for my age but... He trailed off, looking at Naruto. Your chakra reserves are massive. I doubt you'd notice the drain. He finished, before deactivating his Sharingan. Naruto looked down at himself, looking at his own chakra, and then looked at the chakra of the others in the room, before deactivating his Sharingan. I guess I do. He said, scratching the back of his head. Oh, hey, Kakashi. Yes, Naruto. Kakashi asked, turning away from his conversation with Asuma. Does your Sharingan use more chakra because you aren't an Uchiha? I noticed that there's more chakra concentrated in your eye than there is in my eyes or Sasuke's eyes. Yeah, like I said before, you and Sasuke will have better Sharingan than I once they're fully developed. Based on what I've read, something in your Uchiha brains connects to your eyes, and you can either channel chakra to your eyes or cut it off. I don't have that, so mine is constantly draining chakra that I can't cut off. Basically, mine wastes chakra. Kakashi explained, and turned back to Asuma. Oh, that's pretty cool. Hey, Sasuke, do you know what would happen if we channeled more chakra into our eyes? He asked, his attention shifted back to Sasuke. Nothing would happen, you have to unlock the next stage. You can't force it, idiot. I really need to show you the Uchiha library. Sasuke deadpanned at Naruto, which Naruto just responded to with more scratching of the back of his head. But I don't want to read. It's so boring, Naruto complained, and Sasuke rolled his eyes. You do realize you can read way faster with your Sharingan, right? And everything gets memorized. Huh, I never thought of that. Anyways, let's get another mission. Naruto said, attempting to shift the conversation. Troublesome, Shikamaru muttered, and then looked at his two teammates, still staring at Naruto in shock. Ino, Choji, let's get out of here before they drop some new bombshell and your eyes completely pop out of your heads. Shikamaru grumbled, before starting to walk out, followed by his two still shocked teammates after a few seconds. Well, Asuma, you should follow your team. My cute little genin still want to do another mission. Kakashi walked away from Asuma and up to the mission desk. If your team is done for the day, you could probably still catch up to your girlfriend. Kakashi gave one of his signature eye smiles at the end, directed back at Asuma. Yeah, I should probably, Asuma started, before registering Kakashi's remark at the end. Wait, girlfriend? Asuma asked, and glared at Kakashi, who just turned back to the desk and waved Asuma away. As Asuma left, Kakashi said, yeah, you guys don't exactly make it subtle. Right before the door shut behind Asuma. Kakashi turned his attention back to his genin, and saw Naruto looking expectantly up at him. What mission are we going to do now, Kaka-sensei? Naruto asked. Something better than catching a cat, right? How about this? Something that'll put those Sharingan to work, Kakashi said, and held up a scroll for Hiruzen to read. What do you think, Lord Hokage? Hiruzen looked over the scroll, and smiled. Oh, yes, I think that'd be perfect for our two, young, Uchiha. Naruto's eyes lit up in anticipation. What is it, old man? It's gotta be amazing to require the Sharingan, right? He asked, excitement filling his voice. Sasuke, however, could see the look in the Hokage's eyes, and knew it'd be nothing fun. Sakura just looked between Naruto and Sasuke, secretly jealous about the eyes of her teammates. Kakashi held up the mission scroll for his team to read, and once again showed his signature eye smile. He watched as the three of them read the scroll, and watched as Naruto's face fell and Sasuke's became one of annoyance. Map making. Naruto whined. You asked for something that'd put those Sharingan to work, right? Well, what better than a Sharingan to copy maps? Kakashi told him, and Sasuke glared at Kakashi. Sakura can help with sorting the maps, while you two little Uchiha copy as many maps as necessary. He said, and turned back to Hiruzen. We accept this assignment, Lord Hokage. With that, Kakashi left the room, and the two Uchiha glared at him. Sakura was just smirking. Your Sharingan aren't so great now, are they? Your hands are gonna be so sore when all this is over. She snarked at them, before realizing it was aimed at Sasuke too. Wait, not you Sasuke. Your Sharingan is still. She started to backtrack, but Sasuke was already walking away. Naruto and Sakura followed behind them, and they all headed to their next D rank. 2 hours later, Ichiraku Ramen. Ah, man, my hand hurts like hell. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were getting dinner after finally finishing their D rank assignment. Naruto was shaking his right hand, trying to get the aching to stop. Sasuke was rubbing his eyes, which were hurting after using his Sharingan for so long. He had larger than average chakra reserves, but he still wasn't used to keeping his Sharingan active for so long. Naruto, thanks to his massive chakra reserves and enhanced recovery abilities, was able to adapt much quicker than Sasuke was, but his hand was still tired from all the writing. Sakura was lucky, she'd gotten the easy part of their assignment. All she had to do was hand them the maps to copy, and sort the maps once they were done. Maybe it'd stop hurting if you stopped shaking it, idiot, Sasuke said, staring at Naruto between eye rubs. Well, maybe your eyes would stop hurting if you stopped rubbing them. Naruto snapped back at him. Sakura watched the two of them and sighed. Naruto, just let your hand rest. Sasuke, you need to use some eye drops. She told them. How can the last two Uchiha be so bad at dealing with soreness? She asked, and began digging in her pouch, before pulling out eye drops and handing them to Sasuke. Here, they mentioned something about this in the academy when going over dojutsu, and I figured eye drops might be necessary on a team with two Uchiha. Sasuke took the eye drops from her, dripped them into both of his eyes, and blinked a few times. Thanks, Sakura, he told her, which was met with a blush. Cha, take that, Ino pig, inner Sakura screamed, and Sakura turned away to hide her blush. You're welcome, Sasuke, Sakura said, and turned back around once she felt her blush recede. Naruto, who was letting his right hand rest, was digging into his ramen with his left hand. You'd expect it to slow him down somewhat, but he was already on his third bowl. Ramen, Kami's gift to mankind, he exclaimed, his mouth still full of ramen. He was cut off by a hand to the back of his head, and turned to look at Sasuke. Hey, what the hell? Sasuke just grunted. Don't talk with your mouth full, idiot. It's unbecoming of an Uchiha. Yeah. Don't act like I didn't see you do the exact same thing with tomatoes yesterday. Seriously, what's up with that? Tomatoes? Naruto asked him, making an exaggerated face of disgust. Sasuke glared at him. I like tomatoes. Have you ever even tried one? All I see you eat is ramen, at least tomatoes are healthy. Well, no, but they're plants. How could that be tasty? Sakura was just watching the back and forth between the two Uchiha, before realizing what Naruto just said. Wait, you've never had a tomato because it's a plant. Do you eat anything healthy? She asked him, with actual concern on her face. Naruto just thought for a moment, way longer than anyone should think about whether or not they eat healthy, and started counting stuff off on his fingers. Well, there's some healthy types of ramen. And I eat apples sometimes. Sometimes the old man will force me to eat somewhere other than here, but he hasn't been taking me out to eat as much lately. There's also, he trailed off, coming up blank, earning even more concern from Sakura. What the hell, Naruto? Did anyone teach you to? Sakura started to ask him, before remembering that he grew up alone. She saw his face drop a bit, before he started smiling like he usually did. She didn't realize it before now, but this smile looked less real than the one she saw when he was actually happy. I'm sorry, Naruto. I didn't think. It's fine, Sakura, he told her, cutting her off, and slurping down his bowl. I'm done, he said, and pulled out his frog wallet and put money on the table before Sasuke could stop him again. I'll see you guys tomorrow. He waved at them, and walked out of the booth. Naruto. Sakura started, and stared at where he left, her face full of guilt. She turned back to where Sasuke was sitting when she heard him put money on the table, and get up to leave. Don't worry about it, Sakura. I'll go talk to him. I've been meaning to ask him about something anyways. Okay, Sasuke. Sakura watched him exit after Naruto, and pulled out her money to pay for her meal. Naruto was walking down the street, heading back home. It had been a bit since the incident with Mizuki, and he'd started getting closer to Sasuke after he told Sasuke he was an Uchiha, but it still hurt to think about how lonely he was growing up. He understood why people treated him the way they did. He'd probably be scared of someone with a demon in their gut too, but it didn't make it hurt much less. He'd noticed how people started treating him differently when he started wearing Uchiha clothes, or when he was walking around with Sasuke, but he could still feel the glares. His only consolation was the knowledge that his father, the Yondaime Hokage, thought he could handle the Kyuubi. He still hadn't told his teammates about it, and he was scared of what they'd think. Naruto was lost in thought, and tensed when he felt a hand on his shoulder, but relaxed when he looked back and saw Sasuke. "Oh, hey Sasuke," he said, as he stopped walking and turned to face Sasuke, and noticed the concerned look on his teammate's face. "I'm fine, really. You sure? Because I don't think I've ever seen you eat less than 5 bowls in one sitting," Sasuke told him, a smirk on his face, but the concern was still obvious. "Like I told Sakura, I'm fine," Naruto replied, and turned around to keep walking, before Sasuke grabbed his arm. "Naruto, something's bothering you. You helped me when I needed to face what he did, so I want to help you," Sasuke told him, not letting go of his arm. Naruto tried to wrestle free of his grip, but couldn't get Sasuke to let go. "Just let me go, Sasuke. I don't want to talk about it." "You may not want to, but you need to talk about it, Naruto. There's obviously something that you need to get off your chest, and I won't leave until you tell me." Sasuke tightened his grip on Naruto's arm, and Naruto just sighed in return. "Fine, but not here. We're close to my apartment, so I'll tell you there," Naruto conceded, and Sasuke let go of his arm, then followed him to his apartment. Inside Naruto's apartment, Sasuke looked around his teammate's apartment, and couldn't help but compare it to his own. It was smaller than his own, and it was a mess. "He lives here," he couldn't help but think to himself, but was brought out of his thoughts when Naruto started talking. Naruto was sitting on his bed, while Sasuke stood in front of him. "I'm sure you've noticed how people have always hated me, right?" Sasuke nodded at that. At first he'd figured that it was because all the pranks Naruto did, but he realized that no amount of pranks could make the village hate a child that much. "It's been like that my whole life. People would always ignore me, or just glare at me. Whenever I tried to play with other kids at the park, their parents would take them away. Shikamaru, Choji, and Kiba were the only ones that would always hang out with me at the park, but they had to go home at some point, and I was always left alone at the end of the day. It hurt, and I started pranking people so that people would give me some kind of attention, even if it was the bad kind, though the pranking was a lot of fun." Naruto gave a weak smile at the last part. "But why would people treat you so badly? I've noticed you get glares when we're walking around, usually from civilian families, and occasionally some random shinobi. Have they always treated you like that?" Sasuke asked, and Naruto nodded in response. "They have, as long as I can remember. I didn't find out why until the night after I failed the graduation exam, the night I awakened my Sharingan," he explained, and Sasuke started to put some pieces together. "Was finding out why the reason you awakened your Sharingan?" he asked, and Naruto just nodded his approval again. "Do you remember learning about the Kyuubi attack 12 years ago?" Naruto asked, and Sasuke nodded, a little confused about the seeming change in conversation. "Well, it happened the night I was born. We were told that the Yondaime Hokage sacrificed his life and killed the Kyuubi, but that wasn't the whole truth. From what I was told, the Kyuubi is a mass of chakra, so it can't really be killed. It would just reform over time, and the Yondaime's sacrifice would be for nothing. The only option was to seal it, but it's too powerful to be sealed in an object, so he had to seal it in a baby," Naruto explained, mentally bracing himself for the only reactions he expected coming: fear and rejection. Sasuke's eyes were widening in realization, as the pieces started to click together. The glares and the loneliness he saw in Naruto was because of this. He could see that Naruto was scared of his reaction, and he wasn't sure what to do, so he just asked the obvious. "And he sealed it in you?" Naruto nodded, not looking him in the eyes. "Yeah," Naruto started, staring at the wall behind Sasuke. "I have the Kyuubi sealed in me," he told Sasuke, and channeled chakra to his stomach as he lifted his shirt, revealing the seal. I understand if you, he started, but was cut off when Sasuke put a hand on his shoulder. Naruto, it doesn't matter. Sasuke told him, and Naruto finally looked Sasuke in the eyes. He was expecting fear, hatred, or disgust, and was surprised when he saw acceptance. You're my teammate, and a member of my clan. I'd never turn my back on a comrade. I just have one question. He told Naruto, removing his hand from Naruto's shoulder and putting both hands in his pockets. You want to know why I was chosen, right? Naruto asked, and his question was met by a nod from Sasuke. Well, this is a pretty big secret, so you can't say anything to anyone. Not that I think you would, but I just have to tell you that. A bigger secret than a demon sealed in you? Sasuke asked him, confused and curious. Yeah, the old man told me. I'll have to let him know in the morning that I told you about all of this, though he was probably expecting me to at some point. He told Sasuke, and sheepishly grinned while scratching the back of his head. All right, just tell me already. Well, the Kyuubi is really powerful. It has to be sealed in someone with naturally large chakra reserves, but they have to be young too. A fully grown adult's chakra systems, or whatever the old man called it, can't adapt to the chakra of the Kyuubi. According to the old man, my mother comes from a clan who have naturally large chakra reserves, so I could handle the Kyuubi being sealed inside of me. There were probably other options in the village, other kids with large chakra reserves. He trailed off, and Sasuke just continued to stare at him. Are you gonna finish? Sasuke asked, eyebrow raised. The Yondaime knew it would have to be sealed in a child, and, fortunately, his own child had just been born that night. He continued, and Sasuke's eyes widened again. He knew he couldn't ask someone else to give up their child, if he wouldn't do it himself. Naruto finished, watching Sasuke's reaction. You're the son of the Yondaime? Sasuke asked in shock, and Naruto nodded in confirmation. Wait, didn't you say your father was actually an Uchiha? The Yondaime was an Uchiha. Now that he'd been told, he could see the similarities between Naruto and the pictures he'd seen of the Yondaime Hokage. However, he couldn't believe that Minato Namikaze was actually an Uchiha. Yeah, crazy, huh? Apparently he didn't know himself, and never awakened his Sharingan. The old man was so shocked after he saw my Sharingan that he tested my blood, my mom's blood, and my father's blood to see what side I got my Sharingan from. Naruto finished, and Sasuke just watched him, shock evident on his, normally stoic, face. So, your father, the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze, was an Uchiha. He sealed the nine-tailed fox within you, his son, to defeat it. Sasuke summarized, and Naruto nodded, glad to have it off his chest. That's why everyone avoided you. Why everyone shot glares at you. That's so unfair, Sasuke told him, emotion in his usually monotonous voice. Naruto, on the other hand, was smiling. Not his usual fake grin, and not his mischievous grin, but an actual smile of happiness. He'd been so scared of rejection, that he was actually expecting it. He never thought someone could know the whole truth, and actually empathize with him. Thank you for trusting me with this, Naruto. Sasuke finished, getting over the shock of it all. Well, you kinda didn't leave me a choice. Naruto laughed. You probably would have broken my wrist if I refused any more. Besides, it was only fair. You told me about your issues, and I was going to tell you about this eventually anyways. I was scared that you'd hate me for it. Anyone who would hate you for this is an even bigger idiot than you are, idiot. Sasuke told him, his shocked expression replaced with his signature smirk. Yeah, wait. Hey, we were having a moment here, you know. Naruto yelled at him. Why'd you have to go and ruin it like that? Hey, it's not my fault that you're an idiot. Sasuke smirked at him. Anyways, are you gonna tell Sakura? I'm sure Kakashi already knows. Yeah, Kaka-sensei knows about all of it. He was my father's student, after all. Naruto explained. Though, I'm scared to tell Sakura. I don't know how she'd react. If she reacts badly then just ignore her. She's not really important. If she can't see you for you then she isn't worth your time. Hey, she's still our comrade, you know. Why do you always act like it to her, anyways? She really likes you, Naruto asked him, and Sasuke grunted. She's just a fangirl. She's been less annoying since we became a team, but she's not doing anything to advance her skills as a shinobi. She doesn't even eat properly. She's way too thin to be a shinobi. Even her friend, Ino, is better. At least Ino actually trains with her clan. Sasuke explained, and Naruto couldn't help but agree. Yeah, I guess you have a point there. She'd probably work harder if you told her to. Though, maybe we could ask Kakashi about getting her some personalized training. Naruto suggested, and Sasuke shrugged. I guess that'd work. It'll have to wait till tomorrow, though. It's getting really late. Let's head to my apartment. Sasuke told him, and began to walk towards the door. Your apartment? But it's late, and we should probably get to bed soon. Naruto asked him, eyebrow raised. Sasuke turned back to him, and motioned for him to get up. Naruto, this place is a mess. I don't know who decided to let you take care of yourself, but no one should live by themselves in a place like this. I have a spare room at my apartment, and you may as well stay in it, since we're from the same clan. Grab a change of clothes to wear tomorrow, and we can come back for the rest once we're done tomorrow. Wait, really? Naruto asked, excited at the idea of living with someone else. Yeah, now come on. And, as a bonus, if you're living with me, you'll start eating real food. Sasuke said, and walked out of Naruto's, soon-to-be former, apartment. Naruto grabbed a pair of clothes for the morning, followed Sasuke out, and the two of them walked to Sasuke's apartment.